Hi, welcome to Dr. Colbert's Divine Health Podcast. I am Mary Colbert.
And you know I'm Dr. Colbert, Mary. Come on.
Well, for those of you who are watching, yes, of course you know who Dr. Colbert is. This is part two in the Healthy Brain Zone of Dr. Colbert, his newest book that has just been released. And probably, I'm hearing from people, this is probably one of your best books you've ever written.
Well, what I did is I put together the key pieces to the puzzle for Alzheimer.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this has been a work in progress because literally the foundation of this work came from 7 Pillars of Health, the Hormone Zone, the Beyond Keto book, which could have been titled the Alzheimer's Prevention Diet or the Alzheimer's Reversal Diet. But then I put the missing pieces together to start actually reversing Alzheimer's disease, early and mid Alzheimer's. Now, when it's severe and you had just shrinkage of the brain and severe buildup of amyloid, beta amyloid, and tangles in the brain, it can't be reversed. But if we can get it in early stage, mid stage, we can usually, to a large extent of patients, reverse it. And I've been doing this now for a few years with amazing results.
And I want to share real quick, if I can, the story of your
Yeah.
mom.
Oh, yeah. No, it's
Because
amazing.
this paints the picture to give you hope that can this happen. A year ago, we got a phone call from his brother. His mother had really developed a septic UTI and had become very septic from it. As a result, it really threw her into a comatose state. And I'll never forget, when the brother called, Don is very busy and he's like, Mom hasn't been eating or drinking now 3 or 4 days. And Don was like, why didn't you call me? Well, we were treating it and we thought she'd get better, but we think Mom's dying. And so the UTI went
Now, she
very
was 87 years of age.
87.
And
And he was, pretty much the hospice has been called in, the nurses have been called in. They live in Mississippi, and of course, we live in Florida. So Don was booked up with patients, and there wasn't really much he could do at that point, other than he did get on the phone with the nurses and ordered them to give her these 2 shots, 2 days in a row,
of an antibiotic.
of an antibiotic to deal with the UTI that had gone septic. And they didn't want to do it. They just wanted to let her die. They were not giving her fluids. They're not doing anything. They're like, look, we're just going to let her go. And he was like, no, that's my mother. You're not going to let her die dehydrated. That is the worst death ever. So he sent me out to Mississippi, and he goes, Mary, you get there to
She's
my
my
mother.
barking dog. Make
And
sure they
he-
carried out these orders.
That's right. He said, don't you dare let my mother die dehydrated.
And give her fluid.
Give her fluids. So I'm like, don't worry, Don, I'm gonna get her fluids in it. So I get there, and the brother had been giving her tea.
That's my brother Dan.
Before she became comatose. And I said, Dan, tea dehydrates. She needs water, but she won't drink water. She won't drink it. I said, well, she's gonna drink it from me the way she is. So she was gone. And
Well,
I
first,
lived,
she wouldn't wake up.
no, she was
couldn't arouse
gone.
her or anything.
Nothing, not aroused, nothing. So I put her head up and I took a big glass of water and I said, I'm going to pour this down her throat. And they go, you're going to choke her to death. And I said, well, then I choke her to death, but she's going to get this water in her one way or the other. And so I just slowly put the glass up there and slowly got that water down. And she just slowly, very slowly began drinking the water.
But didn't you ask her something
Not
first?
yet.
Oh, you
No,
hadn't? Okay.
she wasn't
Okay.
awake.
Oh, she wasn't awake.
She didn't know I was there.
Okay.
She was gone. And a big glass of water like this I got in her, and I went, yes. So I got another one, and I slowly began putting that water into her to just get her hydrated. And after the second glass of water, and I made the brother leave because he was mad, think I was going to choke her to death. And I made him leave because I thought, he is not going to stop me. I've got to get this fluid in her. So I got it in the second glass, and finally, when I got the second glass, I laid her head back on the pillow, and she popped her eyes open at me. And she looked, and I thought, oh, she's awake. And I began talking to her, hey, it's me. And she knew who I was, ironically. And I asked her, I said, Kitty, I just want to know, are you ready to go home to be with Jesus? I thought, she's
But she's a
done.
strong Christian, praise God.
Strong, loves the Lord. And she had her eyes shut when I asked her, and all of a sudden her eyes opened up and she looked at me and went, no, just like that. And shocked me so bad, I fell back in my chair with the force and strength. I thought, this woman's not going anywhere,
Well, you said you better start drinking this water,
That's
drink
what I
more.
told her. I said, you got to. So then we gave her a protein drink, and then Dan came in. Dan was crying. He couldn't believe his mom was awake, couldn't believe she got the water down. Called Dawn, and I said, but Dawn, I don't know if she'll make it till you get here tomorrow because she's bad. And I said, but, we'll just all pray and believe God. And
She had already called all the family members or sent texts
I
saying
had the
preparing
funeral
for the
arrangements.
funeral. Yeah.
I was preparing for a funeral arrangement because hospice told me she's got 24, 48 hours and she'll be gone. So I was like, okay, they're the experts. They see this, Long story short, folks, she came back. Don began giving her what he is talking about here in his book, supplements, nutrition, to her brain. We went to their house for Thanksgiving this year, and this is the year 2023. And depending upon the date of this video when you watch it. So on 2022, we went to Thanksgiving, and I was sitting watching this woman fully engaged, talking to us, loved the turkey, loved the food, talking about her cats, talking about the grandkids. I mean, within 10, 11 months of applying Don's program, they following it to a T, this woman came back from death.
I mean, before, I couldn't interact with her. I couldn't carry on this conversation
at
with
all.
her. The nurses said, you need to call hospice. She only has just a short time to live. And literally now my mom is back. She's enjoying life again. Her brain is back. She's conversing, totally interacting, totally normal. And again, one of the key things I did is I brought her testosterone level to a high level that supports the brain. Now, not a high level of a man, but I put her up around 150 to 200 milligrams. A man's testosterone is typically around 500 milligrams. That's the blood test that we draw. But I brought her level up around 200 by instructing my brother to give her IM testosterone because testosterone helps to repair those neurons and it prevents shrinkage of the brain and supports synapses. And some of the testosterone is converted to estradiol, which improves blood flow. And both testosterone and estradiol increase brain-derived neurotrophic factor that helps the brain grow and rewire and rejuvenates and restores brain cells and actually grows brain cells. And so I did that along with vitamin D3. I optimized that, brought it up to a optimal level 50 to 80, which turns on over 900 genes and helps to restore and repair brain synapses. I also lowered her homocysteine level. Homocysteine is that toxic amino acid. I did it with key supplements. Now, she couldn't swallow pills. I had to give her sublinguals and gummies to get this down her. And so again,
and some of the capsules we would
open and put them in water.
Open the capsules and put it in water and let it dissolve, and then take it through,
and just stir it up in water. But one thing I learned years ago, I went to a conference years ago. This is before I wrote my book, The Hormone Zone, and I listened to a medical doctor discussing about the benefits of testosterone. And this doctor, after the lecture was over, this one doctor asked a question. He says, my mom is 93 years old. Do you think testosterone could help her? And the lecturer
replied, do you think I should give it to
her?
Or
you think I should give my mom testosterone? And the lecturer said, only if you love her. Because again, testosterone is so beneficial for so many things, but especially the brain, that one of the key things I give to most of my women and men over 70, over 65, most of my women, as well as the majority of my men, are on some form of testosterone because without it, as you get older, you're going to be more prone to getting frail and feeble and have degeneration, be bent over and have osteopenia or osteoporosis, sarcopenia or muscle wasting. But testosterone prevents and reverses that. And that's what we saw with my mom. And now it's absolutely amazing to see the turnaround. I call her every Sunday night. She carries on
Laughs
a
and
full
talks about her
conversation.
cats and
She's
ask about the
totally
grandkids and yep.
engaged, not forgetting. It's absolutely now her brain's not totally restored. And yes, she has some mild Alzheimer's, but it's so much better than before.
She's not gone.
She's not gone. She's back.
She
She's
is engaged.
actually
She knows who he is. She knows who I am. She knows who her kids are. She knows who her cats are, friends that come
she loves her
over.
cat.
So, I mean,
See, her
she,
nickname is Kitty,
yeah,
and she's a cat lover. She
she
has
sure
4 kitty
is.
cats.
She is.
But anyway, let's talk about some of the
I want,
signs or symptoms
yeah, but
of Alzheimer's disease.
I want people to know you've got to get a hold of this book. The information that we're going to share is not going to be enough in this podcast for you to see. The Healthy Brain Zone. It's very simple to read. It's very easy to follow. Go to drcolbert.com and get a hold of your book, and we will ship it out to you. And the products that we have developed is also on the website.
The Brain Zone product.
And I can just only pray I can keep it in stock because I can tell you, when people get on this, you need to be on the products for at least 3 months before you really see huge changes. Right. So you've got to stay consistent with it for 3 months.
And we got to get that homocysteine level down. Sometimes it takes as long as 6 months to get it down.
Once that happens and you see the difference these products are going to make, you're going to want to do them, stay on them. So I've got to work hard to make sure we can keep them in stock.
Now, let's talk about some of the symptoms of mild Alzheimer's, because my father had mild Alzheimer's in his 50s, and I didn't recognize it. But what we find with mild Alzheimer's, they have, first of all, usually struggle to find the right word. They just can't bring the right word out. They also have problems forgetting. They become forgetful. People say, oh, it's just a senile moment. But if these get more frequent, and especially now, folks, in the evening time, in the late afternoon and evening, they start to get what we call sundowner syndrome, where literally their brain just shuts off and they can't remember and they forget where they are and they think they have to go home.
They start asking the same question,
repeating
over and over.
Yes.
They sleep. They want to sleep. They've got to take a nap.
But this is mild
tired.
Alzheimer's. And also, another symptom is forgetting material that you just read, as well as trouble planning and organizing. These people can't organize. Like my dad, when he came back, when he was in his 50s, he'd come to my house and drive down from Mississippi to Florida, and he would organize my garage, try to, but he would end up stacking everything, boxes all the way up to the ceiling in a corner. And my wife says, that's going to tip over. And she was wondering, but they have problems organizing and planning.
Right.
They lose or misplace objects and documents, or they put them in weird places, like your remote, they put it in the fridge or the freezer, or they leave the stove on, or the eye of the stovetop on. And so this could be quite dangerous.
Or they become confused in, driving.
Well, that's moderate. Now this is when it goes from mild to moderate dementia. With moderate dementia, you start getting confusion. They become wanderers. They start wandering off. They get confused.
Familiar drive that they've always driven, all of a sudden they can't remember.
That's what happened to my dad. Now, my dad had this when he would drive us to the University of Mississippi when I was in college. And he was in his 40s back then, but I missed it. I thought, oh, my dad's just getting a little senile. But he would get confused. And I said, Dad, you turned there. Don't you remember? And he said, oh, I got a little turned around, But again, these are signs of moderate Alzheimer's disease. You start forgetting part of your personal history. You forget what college you went to or what high school, or you forget your address, or you forget your phone number. You need help in choosing appropriate clothes, or you start layering. My dad started layering his clothes. He'd put on a shirt and pants and then put on another pair of pants and another shirt. And
they forget they ate. They forget that they've just eaten.
Well,
they're hungry, or they think they've eaten and they haven't.
They then become suspicious, or they become suspicious. My dad used to hide things from my mom. He'd put things, and my mom would be searching for important documents. He'd hide them, or hide her keys, or hide her wallet, or hide his money. And she'd be searching all over the place. It used to frustrate her to know, well, he's hidden something else again. I can't find it. And then also they would have trouble controlling their bladder or their bowels. And so, again, it's just the big thing is they would get lost. They'd get turned around real
Yeah.
easily. Then it progresses to severe. Now, when it's severe, this is hard to reverse. We can usually reverse early. Alzheimer's is usually not much of a problem once we put these key points together and the nutrients and the lifestyle together with the diet. And then moderate is usually fairly easy to reverse. But severe Alzheimer's, when you have a lot of that beta amyloid, when you have the brain shrinkage, see, the brain, once it shrinks and you lose so many neurons and so many axons and dendrites and synapses, you've had brain downsizing. And then it's really difficult to totally restore the brain. It's almost impossible. So it's critical to get it in the early and mid stages until the late stage. Late stages, you forget your surroundings. You don't know where you are. These people have problems communicating. And this was what was happening with my mom because she had just been hit with sepsis. She had had COVID. She had had a major surgery. She had had a hip fracture and again was under general anesthesia. A lot of people with general anesthesia
Yeah.
have major problems with memory afterwards. That's because of the hypoxia or low oxygen from the surgery or the low blood pressure they develop from surgery or the excessive stress from surgery. And these will affect the brain. But also other signs are these people have low awareness of recent events. They don't know where they are. They don't know what day it is. They don't know what time of the day it is. They're unaware. They're totally unaware. And then eventually they lose the use of physical abilities. They lose the ability to walk, to sit, to swallow. And a lot of patients, when this severe stage, the last stage, they can't swallow. And eventually they become more prone to infection, bladder infection, sepsis, pneumonia. That's what usually takes these patients out, pneumonia. My father died of pneumonia. My mother almost died of sepsis from a bladder infection.
Mm-hmm.
But again, so it's important to also know how to diagnose it. And most of the doctors
Are missing it.
are missing it
Done.
because if you get it early and mid-stage, we can usually reverse it.
What age do you think people ought to have this blood test to find out?
The earlier, the better. And I tell people if you can do it at age 50, it's great. I do the homocysteine level and the ApoE4 gene.
What
But
about
also the
children
HSCRP.
or teenagers
Well,
or college age?
again, if you've got Alzheimer's in your family, and I would get the ApoE gene for every member of my family, especially if your kid wants to play contact sports like football or soccer or mixed martial arts or lacrosse or want to get a motorcycle or ride a bike, do this off-trail biking where these kids can suffer major head injuries. You want to get the ApoE4 gene test.
Mm.
And because if you have that gene, then you're much more prone to have Alzheimer's if you have a concussion. And we want to avoid a concussion at all costs. I cannot tell you how many
Yeah.
patients over the years have the gene when we didn't know they had the gene because we didn't have this test until just about 20 years ago or so. And so these patients have had a major concussion and then they have the gene. And remember, when you have this ApoE gene or the Alzheimer's gene and get a concussion, your risk of developing Alzheimer's increases by 10-fold. So it's critical to avoid trauma to the head, or they could have had a car accident where they hit their head. So we know now how to stop it or how to
Right.
prevent it.
That's the good
Yes.
news. Is I know that people are hesitant to want to know this, but folks, I mean, knowledge is power. It is.
Well,
It's
if you have
power.
brain
What to do.
trauma, head trauma, you want to get on testosterone, pregnenolone, and DHEA. And again, I talk about the dosages in the book. The dosage for women is 50 milligrams a day for pregnenolone, as well as men. And the dose of DHEA is 25 milligrams a day for men and 10 milligrams a day for women, or up to 10 milligrams twice a day for women and 25 milligrams twice a day for men. These actually help to restore the brain, protect the brain after you've had a concussion. So
Now, the
real important.
biggest thing that in your book that you address, one of the biggest things that is just toxic to the brain is sugar.
Well, Mary, that's one of the main causes of Alzheimer's. In
Isn't
fact,
that something?
there's 6 forms of Alzheimer's. Type 1.5 is glycotoxic or sweet, which is due to insulin resistance of the brain. See, type 3 diabetes of the brain is Alzheimer's. When you have Alzheimer's, the vast majority of these people have insulin resistance of the brain. In other words, insulin is not working in their brain. The brain cells cannot take up sugar. So these people are struggling to find the word because they do not have, the insulin is not working properly.
Mm.
So insulin is critical to open the cell so that the cell can take up the sugar. And the sugar is what runs the cell. The brain has got to have glucose to function optimally. Now also, The keto diet, the healthy keto diet, provides an alternative fuel source, ketone bodies and fat. Ketones are great for the brain. That's why these people's brains start to wake up when we give them the keto diet. And
I know one thing you do when we go out to eat is so funny is he always brings us olive oil and
yes,
pours it in the thing and takes the bread and sourdough usually and puts
right.
it and just soaks it till it's
Yes, I do.
soaked
I
and
do.
eats the bread just soaked with olive oil.
Right, I
Because
do.
a healthy olive oil, not all olive oils are good, guys, just so you know, has to be a good one. Um,
Well, a
it's
healthy
so
olive
healthy.
oil that's high in polyphenols, what it does, it protects the arteries to the brain. It helps to improve blood flow throughout the whole body and especially the brain. It also decreases inflammation of the brain, which is the cause of type 1 Alzheimer's, is inflammation in the brain.
I think that's so
And a
important.
healthy olive oil will almost always give you a burn in the back of your throat, and you'll have a little hacky cough for a second or two. And that's how you know it's a healthy olive oil. And I talk about this in detail in my book, Beyond Keto. And I talk about the powerful oleocanthal that's the most powerful polyphenol. And again, that's all in that book. I didn't go into it in this book, The Healthy Brain Zone. But again, olive oil is critical, but a healthy keto diet gives you an alternative fuel supply. It gives you ketone. And when you are doing that healthy keto diet, not with slabs of bacon and slabs of cheese and butter and cream, no, I'm talking about olive oil, olive oil, olive oil, fish oil, avocado oil, seeds, and nuts. Those are the wonderful fats that are brain healthy.
Now, one of the things that Don and I did is we went to Greece and we met with some scientists who are studying
Dr.
um,
Maggiatis, he's one of
he-
the authorities on olive oil from
olive
Greece,
oil.
University
And
of Athens.
yeah,
Correct.
we went to the University of Athens, and that was quite an
Oh, it
experience.
was absolutely amazing. That was back about 5 years ago. Wow, it's a long
Yeah.
time ago, but it was
Sometime I want to
amazing.
talk about that trip because that was eye opening. But in sitting there and listening to these scientists and these doctors and showing their graphs, one of the things they found by accident in their study was the benefit to the brain in Alzheimer's with the olive
Olive
oil.
oil,
And
yeah,
I was like, why
I
isn't this
know.
all over the country? Why isn't this
But
all over
not
the
just
news?
olive oil, it's
Yeah,
oleocanthal.
right.
And oleocanthal is a polyphenol in early harvested olive oil that literally gets rid of the beta amyloid plaque in the brain. So, again, really important for the brain. And again, you say, well, how do I get oleocanthal? Well, you can get it online. You can also get it. We have an oleocanthal, or you can get what we call high polyphenol olive oil.
That's what I
Uh,
like is the high
Such as
polyphenol.
Hermes, you can get it online. And again, that's not my brand, but it's a good high polyphenol olive oil that helps your arteries. But
Yeah, because there's some now in the U.S. from
yeah, California,
California
yeah, that are high
that is
polyphenol.
high.
Sure.
They actually are ranking olive oil now with this ranking,
Right.
of whether or not you have high polyphenols. And so definitely
But
you learn that.
oleocanthal is still the king of all the polyphenols. And
Yeah.
again, I discuss this in detail in my other book, Beyond Keto, which should have been called or could have been called the Alzheimer's Prevention Diet.
And you can get this on our website. You can go to our website, drcolbert.com or divinehealth.com, and see the products that he has developed because you can't get what you need in food for the brain.
Right.
There's a lot of things you can do to help the brain, but there are some things you cannot do by simply eating the right food and stuff. There's some things you have to do to supplement for the brain.
Yes, absolutely.
And he's formulated them.
Now, again, in my book, The Brain Zone, The Healthy Brain Zone, I talk about the 10 dementogens. Now, you've heard of carcinogens. Carcinogens are chemicals that cause cancer. Dementogens are chemicals that trigger Alzheimer's disease. So I'd like to take the remaining time and talk about some of these.
Let's do it.
The first dementogen I talk about are heavy metals. You know, there are 4 neurotoxic heavy metals I talk about, but the worst heavy metal for the brain is mercury.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that mercury is present in a lot of fish that we eat.
Mm-hmm.
The larger the fish, the more predatory the fish, generally the more mercury the fish contain. And mercury in fish is actually increasing now. And
Wow.
so again, mercury is present, especially in the large fish. Shark. Sharks have lots of mercury. Don't eat shark. But also orange roughy. Sea bass. A lot of people love sea bass. That has high mercury in it.
It's a big fish.
Sailfish. Sailfish has a lot of mercury. Swordfish, marlin, orange roughy, king mackerel, tilefish, as well as big-eye tuna and ahi tuna. So for all you fishermen, if you're eating
Mm.
lots of fish, you better be taking a chelator afterwards, or some cilantro and chlorella, or a glutathione boosting supplement. So again, mercury's in fish. So you say, well, what do I do if I eat fish? Well, what I do if I eat fish is I take my glutathione boosting supplement. Glutathione is a master detoxifier. It's an antioxidant. It's present in a supplement you can get called N-acetylcysteine, 500 milligrams twice a day. Or we have a new we have a new nanonized glutathione spray that works amazing, that I'm excited that Divine Health will be carrying the next few weeks. So I'm real excited about that. I'll be on that every day. The other heavy metal that's real common that we see that also causes brain degeneration and dementia, it's a dementogen, is arsenic. Now, did you know that a lot of people don't realize that arsenic is toxic to the brain? It actually affects the main memory center, the hippocampus of the brain, where it helps to transform short-term memories into long-term memories. And foods that are high in arsenic are mainly your chicken, rice, especially brown rice syrup that's in these cereal bars, and as well as water. A lot of water contains arsenic.
Wow.
So you say, well, how do I get rid of arsenic? Well, you get rid of arsenic by, first of all, glutathione's a master detoxifier that removes it, or you can chelate it with heavy metals. Or you can use infrared sauna, and that works on all the neurotoxic metals. The neurotoxic metals are first mercury, arsenic, lead, and cadmium. And I go in detail about each of these dementogens and how to remove it, but sauna or sweating it out with infrared sauna, glutathione, the master detoxifier, and or chelating agents. For mercury and arsenic, it's DMSA or DMPS. For lead and cadmium, it's mainly calcium EDTA or disodium EDTA.
We're going to be going on to Rumble as well as YouTube with our videos. So watch for that. We're going to be, and we'd ask for you to share it with your family, your friends. Go to Dr. Colbert, divinehealth.com or drcolbert.com, and either one will get you to us. And get a hold of this book. And it is the book, this is going to be the book of 2023 people are going to be talking about, because it's so full of real answers, things that you can really do. So do that for your friends, your families, for your health. You know, the Lord wants you to walk in divine health. That's his promise, and that is his desire for you and all of us to
Amen.
walk in divine health. And if you're not, there are things you need to learn to do so that you can, because that's the will of God. That
Amen.
is.
In fact, Apostle John says, "Brethren, I wish above all things that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers." God bless you.
Amen. Take care of that temple. You
Amen.
are his temple, not the building anymore.
It's you. You are the temple.
God
Amen.
bless.